President Donald Trump has issued one of his strongest warnings yet to Moscow, hinting that the United States could supply Ukraine with long-range Tomahawk cruise missiles if Russia continues its offensive in eastern Ukraine. Speaking aboard Air Force One en route to Israel, Trump declared, "If this war is not going to get settled, I'm going to send them Tomahawks." The statement, caught by reporters, sent shockwaves through diplomatic circles. The Tomahawk, capable of striking targets over 1,000 miles away, would mark a dramatic escalation in U.S. military aid, one that could shift the balance of power on the battlefield. Trump's words appear designed to pressure Russian President Vladimir Putin into negotiations while signaling to NATO allies that Washington is prepared to act decisively if diplomacy fails. However, critics warn such rhetoric could risk direct confrontation between the U.S. and Russia, as Moscow views long-range Western weapons in Ukraine as a red line. For now, the Kremlin has responded cautiously, calling Trump's comments provocative and dangerous, while reaffirming that Russia will continue its special military operation until its goals are met. The Tomahawk missile system represents a critical escalation in strike capability. Deployed from ships, submarines, or mobile launchers, it can hit deep within enemy territory with pinpoint accuracy. For Ukraine, access to such weapons would mean the ability to target Russian logistics hubs, airbases, and command centers far beyond the front lines, even inside Russian territory. Defense analysts say this would change the calculus of the war, forcing Moscow to spread its defenses and potentially move key assets deeper inland. Yet, that same capability risks drawing NATO and Russia into a more direct standoff. In recent months, Washington has already supplied Kyiv with ATACMS, HIMARS, and Patriot systems, but Tomahawks would represent an entirely new level of support, one that signals not just deterrence but offensive potential. Some experts believe Trump's statement may be a negotiating tactic, aimed at forcing Putin into peace talks. Others fear it could be the start of a new, uncontrollable escalation phase in the war. In Moscow, officials reacted with both anger and alarm. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov condemned Trump's remarks as an unacceptable provocation and warned that Russia will respond appropriately to any deployment of long-range American weapons in Ukraine. Russia has already been reinforcing its defensive positions around Crimea, Belgorod, and Kursk, anticipating potential Ukrainian strikes with Western weapons. The addition of Tomahawks would stretch Russian air defense systems, already strained by daily drone and missile attacks. Analysts note that Russia's S-400 and S-500 systems could theoretically intercept Tomahawks, but saturation strikes would make defense nearly impossible. If Ukraine receives Tomahawks, the strategic landscape changes overnight, said a European defense expert. Meanwhile, Russian state media has begun portraying Trump's remarks as proof that the U.S. seeks to destroy Russia through proxy warfare. Moscow has also called for an emergency meeting of the UN Security Council, accusing Washington of destabilizing global peace. In Kyiv, Trump's statement was met with cautious optimism. Ukrainian officials hailed the potential delivery of Tomahawks as a game-changing move that could finally give them parity in long-range warfare. President Volodymyr Zelensky said Ukraine welcomes every step that strengthens our ability to defend our people and bring peace closer. Defense Minister Rustem Umerov emphasized that the Tomahawks would allow Ukraine to target Russian supply lines that remain beyond reach of current systems. Public sentiment in Ukraine surged following the announcement, with many viewing it as a sign of renewed American commitment after months of uncertainty about future U.S. support. Still, Kyiv officials are aware of the diplomatic risks, particularly that Russia might retaliate harshly against new Western involvement. "Every new weapon brings both opportunity and danger," said one senior Ukrainian officer. But in war, hesitation is costlier than risk. NATO allies reacted with mixed emotions to Trump's declaration. Some Eastern European members, such as Poland and the Baltic states, praised the move, saying it shows the West's resolve against Russian aggression. But others, including Germany and France, voiced concern that deploying Tomahawks could provoke a wider conflict. At the United Nations, European diplomats scrambled to assess the implications, warning that such a move could close diplomatic pathways to peace. China and India have also called for restraint, urging both Washington and Moscow to de-escalate tensions. Military experts believe that if the U.S. proceeds with providing Tomahawks, it will require careful targeting oversight and possibly restrictive conditions on how Ukraine can use them, similar to the conditional strike agreements used with ATACMS. Global markets reacted nervously, with oil prices rising and European defense stocks surging amid fears of a broader confrontation. Trump's remarks may mark the beginning of a new strategic chapter in the Russia-Ukraine conflict. The threat of Tomahawk deployment underscores the growing impatience in Washington with Moscow's intransigence, but it also raises the stakes dramatically. Diplomatic sources suggest that private back-channel talks between U.S. and Russian officials have intensified since Trump's comments. Meanwhile, the Pentagon has reportedly begun assessing the logistical and political feasibility of transferring older Tomahawk units from existing naval stockpiles. If the weapons are delivered, it would be the first time in history that a U.S. president authorized Tomahawk missiles for use by a non-NATO ally in an active war zone against a nuclear-armed adversary. For now, the world watches closely. Is Trump bluffing to force Putin's hand or signaling the start of a new offensive era in Ukraine's war for survival? One thing is certain, the next move will define not only the fate of Ukraine but the direction of global power itself.